Every time we move that inside, it's not going to be less. So we do that.
That's right. It was outside out here the next day, and we get all that, we're all gonna do it. That day, next week.
So that's the.
Eight shit, that'd be-
Yeah. That's right. She's gonna say she knows your face.
Yeah.
I'm ready when you are. It's not.
Ready to go?
Yeah. I'm ready when you are.
They got a stack of all.
Yeah.
I said. We should cover those. I get her to do this.
I think I did it.
Meeting to order. First of all, I want to thank St. Matthews for hosting this location for us. Very nice. Next on the item will be the roll call.
Thank you very much. Bullock County, City of Charlestown, City of Jefferson Pound. Here. City of Jeffersonville. City of New Albany.
Here.
City of Shipley. City of St. Matthews.
Here.
Clark County.
Here.
Brad. Boyd County.
Here.
Nick. NDOT. Jefferson County League of Cities.
Here.
Kentucky Transportation Cabinet. Louisville Metro Government.
Present.
Regional Airport Authority. Oldham County. Town of Clarksville. And TARC. That's a minute. Certainly have a forum. Our advisory committee, members, District 5 here, thank you all for joining us. And I believe Federal Highway might be here shortly. So, certainly have a forum.
We have a forum. All right. Thank you so much. We have a long, good agenda. So let's move right on to number 2, October 2024 TPC meeting minutes approval. Motion. Somebody have a motion second.
Second.
Any additions or corrections? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you. Item number 3, public comment period. Greg?
Yes, I have several public comments. Some of them are essentially themed, so we'll get through them pretty quickly. First one is, hello, my name is Jody Dahmer, resident and member of the Smoketown Neighborhood Association south of Broadway. Well, there's a plan named Broadway All the Way to address safety concerns. The timeline for safety improvements is in 10 years, and there needs to be immediate changes to reduce collisions and injuries from customers walking or biking to this location. With the new two-way conversions on Shelby and Logan Street happening next spring, I'm asking for KIPTA to fund safety improvements in a north-south and east-west direction with painted parking spaces to fund the Campbell Street cycle track as mentioned in the bike implementation plan on Louisville Metro, and to build a protected two-way car-free mobility lane from Barrett Avenue to Shelby Street for bike and scooter access to our stores and businesses. We've heard from many customers living near Broadway, and they do not feel safe walking east-west from Barrett to Shelby with such high-speed traffic, low lighting, and no crosswalks. Additionally, car users do not feel comfortable parking on Broadway or the surrounding streets as the traffic is so fast, and there are no lines for delivery vehicles or on the intersections of Shelby, Logan, or Brent Street. Cyclists and pedestrians should not need to cross 6 lanes of traffic in order to access groceries in our business. There is already a funded and built example of this on Castlewood Avenue in Tyler Park neighborhood, less than 2 miles away for approximately the same distance as Barrett to Shelby. Additionally, the bike implementation plan has already created an estimated cost of building north-south to two-way cycle track from the Arena District on the Ohio River on Campbell Street, but it needs to be funded. This will allow tourists, residents, and most importantly, customers access to our businesses without creating more traffic for users on Broadway. I urge Kipton to address these safety concerns before more injuries happen to our customers and residents. These are very simple fixes that can be done with a very small percentage of funds as compared to interstate or highway expansion. For the sake of all businesses on the corridor, please help fund safety improvements from Barrett to Shelby on Broadway and fund the Campbell two-way cycle track connector from the bike implementation plan. Thank you, Joe. Second one is also about Broadway. Says my family and I have owned and operated businesses along East Broadway in Louisville for the past 3 generations. I'm writing today in an effort to voice a concern for general pedestrian safety and access throughout the area. Current challenges include fast-moving traffic, minimal crosswalk options, inadequate lighting, and a variety of parking issues. We are excited about the Broadway All the Way plan, but are concerned about the realistic timeline for implementation. Our neighbors and communities advocates have begun developing short-term plans on how to improve pedestrian safety throughout this community. These plans focus on East Broadway and the following streets: Shelby, Logan, Brent, Campbell, and Barrett. We're asking Kipton to support these initiatives and provide funding to make a reality. Thank you very much for your time and consideration. Final one on Broadway. Hello, my name is Birch Bragg, owner of the recently opened Local Foods Hub and Pizza Pub at 822 East Broadway on the corner of Logan and Broadway in the Smoketown neighborhood of Louisville. We intentionally opened in Smoketown because of the lack of affordable fresh food and groceries in this traditionally unserved area in which we offer. Broadway is a state highway with fast moving traffic, barely any crosswalks, a lack of infrastructure for seniors and families who cannot use a vehicle, walking or biking to the location from all directions. Car parking is limited due to the age of the neighborhood, and currently there are no parking spaces on the roads or surrounding Broadway. While there's a plan named Broadway All the Way, the timeline for safety is in 10 years, needs to be immediate changes to reduce collisions. We have heard from many customers, they don't feel safe from walking Barrett to Shelby, loaded with such high-speed traffic. They are also asking Kipton to fund safety improvements in the north, south, east, west direction. Cyclists and pedestrians should not need to cross 6 lanes of traffic in order to access groceries, same as Jody's thoughts. I should sincerely appreciate your time and matter of this attention. The local business owner who has invested a tremendous amount of money into this project in this neighborhood to help the area grow with immediate service needs. We could really use your help to make this area safe and attractive to pedestrians, neighbors, and tourists alike. Final public comment is about adding a ramp from DuPont Road behind the Norton Medical Plaza to the I-64 ramp and I-264 Watershed Expressway to relieve all the congestion from Dutchman's Lane to Breckenridge Lane to Watershed Expressway. That is all the public comments for this month.
All right, any comments and questions? If not, let's move on to number 4, then public involvement report. Greg, to you again.
Okay. Problem, couple folks in the room here that. Share my screen. Go through the numbers. That is not supposed to say August, sorry, cut that. That is actually supposed to say October. Website analytics, 253. Yeah, that's right. All right, so our website analytics, 253 visitors for our main page, as well as 211 visitors for our tip page for the month of October, and 65 visitors for that. All 3 numbers, they were kind of down a little bit compared to last month, just as a note for that. Let's look at our social media analytics. 11 posts, 385 impressions, 25 engagements for Instagram, over 1,000 impressions with 159 engagements for Facebook, and 375 impressions for Twitter. Events and comments. So we went to the Middletown Chamber of Commerce. We also did U of L Sustainability Day and Break the Stigma Walk over in Fern Creek. We did have 1 comment just about sidewalk connectivity from that. talking about Indian Trail to Poplar Level, to the school out there, and then Hurstbourne to Old Shep. Also Poplar Level to Old Shep, they'd like to see, some more connectivity with sidewalks in that area. Final comment was actually a video comment, so I will play that here. Hopefully everybody can hear this from it. This is dealing with Bardstown Road, down near like Fern Creek.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Valor School on Georgetown Road. It's like a castle. They're gonna be building apartments there. To my understanding, it's gonna be over 800 apartments. And even with that alone, it's gonna, of course, be at least 800 more vehicles on the road, if not more, if there's a two-party, home, someone, two parties that live in that apartment itself. And right now, it's already gridlocked, in the mornings as well as at the, in the afternoon at rush hour time. So our concerns as the neighbors, as homeowners, in the neighborhood is just all of that, it's just the gridlock, and we're just afraid it's gonna be fatalities, more fatalities, related to, motor vehicles.
That wraps up my report for this month. I will take any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions? If not, item number 5 is, we're going to hear about the creation of the Louisville Department of Transportation. Andy, introduce our speaker.
I would love to. Today we have, Louisville Metro Deputy Mayor Nicole George in attendance and Jennifer Kern, Louisville Metro Public Works Director, to talk about big deal for Louisville Metro. Been working on for probably a year now or so. That is the creation of a Louisville DOT. And so I think a lot of you guys, just like myself, we're eager to hear what that means for us as suburban or adjacent communities and different folks. George.
Thank you. You want to say anything more? I would just say that, one of the things Mayor Greenberg heard from the very beginning was the need for Metro to do things in a way that enhanced efficiency and really help deliver projects as it relates to transportation. And so when Director Kern was appointed, not only was she facing the task of overseeing the department, but then also moving us toward the future of the Department of Transportation in Metro. So what you're going to hear reflects a lot of work that involves not only what came about as a result of the consultants, but also a reflection of folks, many of you in this room who participated and got us to this point. I want to look out and thank Mike King in particular, because it was probably 3 years ago when he said to me as a council member, hey, Nicole, a lot of cities organize their transportation around independent departments. And you should look at some of that because that could be helpful to us. So I'm gonna give a big thanks to Mike King. All right, thank you.
All right, so thanks for that. On the screen now, there's a direct link to the full recommendation report. So I know that many of you in this room participated in a lot of the focus groups, and that was very, very important to developing those recommendations. So the full recommendations are there. The consulting team we selected was City 5 with their sub being Sam Schwartz, who literally wrote Structured for Success, the NACTO guide on how to structure your department to succeed in doing all of the things that we would like to do. So why a Department of Transportation? I don't know that we have to go in depth with this group. You all have sat through more meetings than me. They are painful. Our inability to complete projects in a timely manner. And the escalation of costs involved when projects start to be around for 10, 14, 20 years. That's not acceptable. So other challenges that we face are the legibility from the outside. So who do you call for something? Because we get calls all the time that either should have gone to development review or to Mike's team with advanced planning. Nobody really knows where to go. They get bounced around when they call in to try to find somebody, and then they have this negative view of, nobody knows what's going on there, because we don't. I don't know necessarily what other projects are going on with other teams involved in transportation. So fragmented transportation functions, lacking clear prioritization process and performance metrics. So how are we choosing projects? Are we being strategic about it? What's the most important thing for this community? Is it, capacity? Is it level of service? Is it, traffic fatalities? How are we judging and scoring projects? And then limited resources to execute what that vision is, and lack of internal processes to enable efficient, consistent, and operation for project execution. So we have great people on staff, and that's not to say anything about them, but we don't document our processes. And if you're not documenting it, you're the only one that knows, and there's no way to build in that incremental systemic improvement that we so desperately need. So it's great that you're learning a thing, but there's no way to really pass that on. And then you have legacy issues where only one person knows about a project, and if they leave or get reassigned, nobody knows anything about that. So here are the primary, if you have to summarize this whole document, the primary recommended actions can be boiled into organize your functions, have processes, and then align your vision with what your goals are. So going into that, this is our general organizational chart. I did not include our current organizational charts because quite honestly, they won't fit on a slide. Right now I have 15 direct reports. We have our advanced planning team, and then we also have within planning and design, our transportation development review team. So we're spread out across departments. The primary recommendation for organizing functions is that Public Works would be divided into clusters. So we have our administrative services, which I wish there was a better name for, because they really are the backbone of everything that we do. So our HR team, performance measuring, technology, all of those services, our GIS teams. And then we have our solid waste services here. And the proposal is to nest our transportation division right in the middle. So Department of Transportation would be in the middle. There was a lot of discussion. People say, why didn't you just break it out? Well, creating a whole new department is, $15 million and 30 new people in STEM-oriented occupations. And I don't know how you all do with hiring engineers or technology-related people, but it's not great right now. So we have a limited number of applicants, and it would not be feasible to do that. What we did get from these recommendations is a proposal that is scalable. And you'll see on a future slide, there are strategic positions to fill gaps that we have and to set us up so that whatever direction we go or pursue, we can build in and scale up as we grow. And then also keeping solid waste with us. There are, for those of you familiar with our emergency operations, we have just in the first year that I was here, developed a debris management plan. We have been able with our roads division and our solid waste division to coordinating with utilities and other municipalities, and really streamlining how we respond and getting a baseline for what is expected in that response. So for me personally, tying together our solid waste and our roads and operations team for that specifically was very important. So essentially, and this is just a general org chart, the Department of Transportation to capture the whole cycle of projects made up of our transportation team, our engineering team, and then our roads and operations team. So planning, designing, and maintaining. Those teams, as I touched on, our planning team will be led by Mike King, who is joining us from the Economic Development Group, is where advanced planning is nested. And also Beth Stuber's team, if you're familiar with our development plan review team that is nested within planning and design, will be coming over. So when you contact us, somebody should be able to get you to the right person if you have a transportation question, and you shouldn't be getting bounced around or other teams working on things that aren't aligning. So process improvements, I'm a process nerd. This is the most important thing for me. So strategic planning, project prioritization and development, project management, and project metrics. And we've got some really nice quotes here from the report. But what does any of that really mean? it's figuring out what our vision is. And, we'll get to some preliminary vision and mission statements, but aligning what we're doing and keeping that, our primary goal, keeping people safe, getting people where they need to go. And that needs to lead every single thing that we do and that we touch. So along those lines with other improvements, having a project rubric. So what's the most important? Are we aligning where we prioritize projects based off of the high injury network, the speed management plan? How do all of those align? So creating a rubric to determine which projects, develop KPIs to help us select those projects, build those projects, and then figure out, hey, we wanted to decrease crashes or slow speeds down. Was that really an outcome? And start measuring projects so that we can start learning from the projects that we're building. Create a multi-year plan for projects. We have a collection of good projects, but we've arrived at them and we're working through them. And we don't have a mid-year plan. So in 2 years, what we do call for projects right now, as many of you will see, we're clearing out our projects that we have in queue that we need to complete. But in 2 years, we need to have an idea of what we're going to be applying for in the next 2 call for projects. It shouldn't just be picking something off the shelf because it needs to be very strategic. And then communicate intentionally about what our priorities are. And that is with internally, external partners, everyone involved, getting that feedback in building things, not just that we think are good ideas, but the community actually wants and supports and can get excited about. And then moving to a project sponsor model. This is my favorite part. Right now we have projects and they will live with planning, or they will live with engineering, or move into our inspections team depending upon where they are in the project. So the projects are bouncing around. And a lot of that has fed into the cycle of, okay, this decision was made here, but then it goes to another group and they're going, well, did you think about this? Did you think about that? Or maybe it has a different lead. The project sponsor model we actually have 2 recs to hire for a traditional transportation project lead and for a loop project lead, but a real project manager, not a project engineer, not a project planner, but a project manager who will know deadlines, budgets, and push the projects in a true project management way. And that person will stay with the project from inception to completion, so it is not bouncing between departments. So in an effort to keep those projects lined up, that's the model that we're going to. And then here's an example of project management matrix. Right now, we're going through implementation, and this is something that the process subcommittee is coming up with. This is more internal. This is a generic example, but the idea is also that we would have a matrix like this that would figure out who are our external partners. When are we contacting utilities? So who are we contacting? When are we contacting them? Because historically, one thing that came up in the recommendations is we're contacting utilities too late. We're coordinating with other agencies too late. So those things, we have projects in urban areas where MSD is going through and replacing catch basins. It would be awful if we did a project and they have to come in and rip everything out we just did because they also had a project. So understanding who the stakeholders are at the very, very beginning of a project and when do we need to touch those other stakeholders with our information. So here's kind of the timeline here for implementation. Release recommendations in July. Right now through December, we are working with implementation teams to formalize our vision, mission, goals. There were some recommendations in the report, and those are things that we're dialing in right now. And then October through December, we'll get to the positions, but we just recently, or they should be going up this week, utility coordinator and a policy analyst for our team should be posted, and also searching for a director for the department. And then spring of next year, we'll be rolling out, we're working with a branch strategist to help us with figuring out what that rollout looks like. And here with our implementation team, we have a leadership team made up of the people who will be our assistant directors within the department, and then also members of the Metro budget team and HR to help us navigate big picture. And here are the example, or the vision, mission, equity statements, as they are today. I think we're pretty close to being final on those. And right now that team, next task will be finalizing the values and goals. Here are I talked about the very specific position recommendations. So, our relocated teams would be advanced planning, transportation plan review. So each of those will be bringing, several engineers or planners over with them. And then the new full-time positions are the DOT director, a technology service manager, policy analyst, and, a utility coordinator, and then a dedicated grant writing position. The recommendation suggested that we do the project sponsors that I talked about earlier as grant funded. I feel like those positions are so important to what we want to do. We went ahead and transitioned to vacant positions to fill those, to get that part of the model set up and running. And then also a project compliance officer for our grants, making sure that we're on the right track. And then because, bringing our team in and getting that buy-in is so very, very important. We've set up subcommittees for what are the top 4 items. It's reorganizing and figuring out how we do things. It's not as exciting as people would think. There's a lot of talking through what does a job description look like? Where do people go? I recently found out that our whole floor needs to be rewired for data. So it's a lot of really boring but important details. So working with HR, OMB, job descriptions, what does the final organizational chart look like? Who exactly is reporting to who? We talked about the processes, and that subcommittee is working through what each of those responsibility matrices look like, what the process is for each type of project. And then public engagement, we have, because many of our projects have historically started and stopped and started and stopped, communication hasn't been great. Or we don't, we've lost the initial group of stakeholders. It's a different group of stakeholders. So maybe we're not as effective when we reach back out. But being very strategic in how we communicate and being proactive about it. So rather than saying, here's a project, really working to meet people where they are and gather feedback on projects. And then physical space and technology, it turns out this is the thing my staff is most excited about. Is how big is my cubicle gonna be? Where are we gonna be? And part of it is relocating. Right now, our traffic team is 2 blocks away from us. And they're in and out of the office a lot. So communicating with them can be difficult. Bringing them into our team in a physical way is, I think, a good first step. But then also laying out our floor grouping by pods so that people have an identity and understand roles and responsibilities in I guess a very apparent way. I think will be good moving forward. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So what questions do you have? What is your favorite rumor about the DOT is my favorite question. I heard I was putting 2 people in an office at a time. That's not true. So,
Questions, anyone? What process do you plan on using or doing to keep this organization kept updated as this moves forward? I think would be important.
we could, whatever method you think. I mean, if there need to be monthly updates, things like that. The actionable items here, things like the rubrics, KPIs, the capital projects plan is something that team will be creating once they're established. So that's not something that will happen with the implementation. Those are actual things that the team will develop once we have them together. So, but that's definitely something that we could do, monthly updates for TTCC.
Any other questions? No, you did a good job.
Thank you.
Six, there's a TPC Officers Committee nomination. We need to get a committee going. Andy, let's talk about what's required.
Yeah, so today is our last meeting of the TPC of the year, and so it's time to think about next year, 2025, and who our officers will be. The TPC bylaws state that the highest ranking officer of the KIPTA Board of Directors Executive Committee, so typically the chairman of the KIPTA Board of Directors, that person has the right of first refusal to be the TPC chairman as well, okay? And so, we're heading towards, Commissioner Jack Kaufman from Clark County being the KIPTA chairman of the board of directors next year. And so, I've spoken with, Mr. Kaufman and asked if he would be interested in becoming the TPC chairman as well. And he said, yes, he would. Okay, so next year, we should plan for our chairman, assuming he's elected by the KIPTA board or approved by the KIPTA board in January. Commissioner Jack Kaufman being the KIPTA TPC chairman. What we will need to do is find us a TPC vice chairman or chairperson next year. And so really simple process. We'd like to set up perhaps couple, 3 volunteers to make a small nominating committee where we can get together probably the next couple weeks and discuss who might be a good candidate for that role. Then we'll come back to this committee in January for their potential election. So seeking a couple volunteers to be on that committee.
I'll be glad to volunteer, be one of the 3.
Thank you.
Volunteer.
Great. All right, we got it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. And then you'll reach out to us for the.
We'll set up a meeting maybe early mid-December.
Okay, good deal. Item number 7, this is the Indiana MPO dedicated 2025 funding. Brady. Welcome.
Well, this is an item that would typically go to the TTCC first, but is not in this case due to time constraints. And I'll talk about that here in a second. Greg's pulling this up. You may remember that I have discussed Mount Tabor Road in Indiana as a project that is it's very important to this year's fiscal 25 Indiana individual funding. There are 468 or 4,648,381 of KIPTA's SPBG funds programmed for the construction phase of this Mount Tabor Road project. That's 76% of KIPTA's fiscal 25 funds that we have for Indiana. Of our combined sub-allocation. This project had a utility phase in fiscal year 24 that was not authorized. This project was essentially following behind schedules and issued with utilities. And we met about that in September at their quarterly meeting. Still with concerns, but still with hope that this project could meet its letting this year for construction. And there still is hope that this project can be completed on time, but it is looking less and less likely. This project is in serious jeopardy of not authorizing its funds this year. And so because KIPTA does not have a December TPC meeting, if we don't make any actions today, then we won't be able to have any Indiana funding adjustment approvals until January TPC. And by that time, there may not be enough time to make adjustments, be it an amendment or other things by the end of the fiscal year to get these projects, to reallocate funding in the case that this Mount Tabor Road project fails this year. So that's kind of the timeline of why this is giving TPC going straight to you, is because we may need some decisions today so that we avoid a situation that we had with Riverside Drive 2 years ago, where we lose a lot of funding to the Indiana region. So in conjunction with the Mount Tabor Road project, there's also the Stancer Avenue project. It's a Clarksville project that town of Clarksville has decided to not proceed with that project. They currently have $532,000 programmed to a PE phase. So this project hasn't started yet, but it was originally planned to start this year, but they have decided to not move forward with that project and go other directions. So between those 2 projects, Stanford Avenue, relinquishing their funding in Mount Tabor Road, potentially not getting authorized this year. That puts us in a position where there is over $5 million at risk for fiscal year 25 in Indiana. So as a result, we had a meeting last week with our Indiana sponsors that are typically a part of that quarterly review meeting. And put together some recommendations of essentially a backup plan of what do we do now to prepare in case we have all this money left available. So the first recommendation is Clarksville has the Riverside Drive project that they have already authorized construction funds for, and that project is ongoing. But they have recently received some information that they need some additional funds to help put in a flat gate to help for the flood mitigation of a portion of the project. Does that sound correct? And so they are requesting $500,000 STBG funds to help continue that construction phase of that project. So that would be one recommendation of what we can do now to help alleviate that discrepancy of funding. The second recommendation that was made by this group is to program a little over $1 million here with Group 3 NDOT funds to existing projects that would be able to, if they started now, they started like within the next week or two, be able to potentially authorize funds by the end of the fiscal year, as well as one planning study that was also submitted as a part of this meeting. Was not submitted as a part of the call for projects, but it was brought up as something that could be funded potentially in this meeting we had last week. And so if you look at these projects that could use funding, Clarksville has their Progress Way project that has right-of-way programmed for fiscal year 25 this fiscal year, and they could use an additional $100,000 for right-of-way. Park County has their Henryville sidewalk project that is already begun its PE work. We gave that project some money for PE a couple months ago at this meeting as a result of the September quarterly meeting where there was additional funding made available at that time. But they got a new construction estimate and or they got a new estimate for PE and would request an extra $100,000 federal available for the Henryville sidewalk project. Park County also has a small structure inventory study that could potentially use STBG funds. So they're requesting $200,000 federal for that. And then the city of New Albany has two projects that are currently programmed or soon to be programmed for fiscal year 26 for their PE phase. And they already have construction and other phases programmed out in later years in our tip. But they are in position to where as a PE phase, if they started now with their RFPs, they could begin that process now and potentially get their PE phase authorized by the end of the fiscal year 25. So you can see the numbers there for those two New Albany projects. So that's recommendation number 2. And then recommendation number 3 is we just received applications via the call for projects for Indiana, our Indiana sponsors, many of them requesting fiscal year 26 PE phases. So very similar situation to those New Albany projects. We could potentially, if these projects were to begin soon, within the next week or two, with RFPs and all the requirements associated with getting funding authorized, they could get PE phases or a planning phase in the case of this Clark County project here. Completed by the end of the fiscal year. All these totals here add up in terms of federal funds to $1,711,481. And we would be using Group 3 NDOT funds in this scenario. So for recommendation 2 and 3 with these Group 3 funds, they'd be using NDOT dollars. And in return, KIPTA would essentially not reprogram the same amount of MPO dedicated dollars. So that allows the TIP to be fully constrained because there are Group 3 funds available to be used. We can put it in the TIP soon, and that meets all of the federal requirements for our TIP. And if worse comes to worse and Mount Tabor Road fails, these projects would be in the tip and available to quickly authorize funds using NDOT dollars that we would essentially just swap with our MPO dedicated dollars at the end of the fiscal year. So kind of summary of these three scenarios of what could happen today, depending on your vote. If today's funding adjustments are approved, those three recommendations I just showed, and Mount Tabor Road fails to reach its letting submittal deadlines, which are currently slated for the end of December or end of December for a April letting, end of January for a May letting, very last chance. Then all project phases that I listed here would be in a position to quickly authorize more than half of the $5 million deficit that I showed at the beginning of the slideshow. All those various projects add up to about $3.2 million in federal funds. Scenario two, if today's funding adjustments are approved and Mount Tabor Road successfully reaches their letting submittal deadlines, which is the best case scenario for the region, probably in terms of using our funds. Then projects programmed with Group 3 funding would either shift to fiscal year 26 as approved via the call for projects, have to readjust their funding in the tip via administrative modification, or cancel their RFP process that they will have begun this December for their PE or planning phases. Something important to note about how the call for projects specifically relate to how this would work out, since the call for projects working group will meet in early December, which will be before we know the outcome of what happens to Mount Tabor Road. They're gonna have to view the call for projects decision make like recommendation process as though funding will not be available in fiscal year 25. So in other words, by giving funds to these call for projects requests, it's not a commitment to fully fund all of the rest of the project. All of these call for projects will have to be included in the next amendment, which won't be approved until the end of February by TPC, and then we'll have to go through federal review. So we won't have an official approval of the next amendment until the end of March, maybe. But we will know which projects will be funded by the call for projects before that time. So as long as the call for projects process will essentially not consider these projects as committed, because we can remove them before any funding authorization has been had and they become federal projects. Last scenario. Today's funding adjustments are not approved and Mount Tabor Road fails to reach its letting submittal deadlines. Then essentially the future funding adjustments, we won't have time to make significant adjustments. There's only a couple projects that would already have funds authorized that quickly authorize additional funding for. And that adds up to about $700,000 of the $5 million deficit. So that would put us in a position early next year where we're going to have to make some unhappy decisions about what to do with the rest of our funding if we don't make some kind of action today. So that's all I have. Any questions about this recommendation and the request for action here?
You're actually asking for recommendations 1, 2, and 3 combined? Would that be?
That would be correct. Yeah.
We're not in a good spot here, as you can tell. There's not a magic bullet at all. Again, that, what was it? Scenario 2 was the primo one. But the other ones where we have to adjust, it's not a pretty picture at the time.
Good, with these other, if we make these adjustments, with you did say if these projects can start in a week, it seems to be a lot of criteria that may not make it. Is that a good assumption or a good statement?
The projects that we have here as recommendations to start funding towards as a backup option.
Yes, right.
It's reasonable to assume these projects could be authorized by the end of the fiscal year. It's possible that some of them may not be able to, but it's reasonable that they could.
Keep in mind, they're all PE, they're all preliminary stuff, so
Right.
those are a little more nimble, far more nimble.
today.
I would entertain a motion to approve.
What's it? 1, 2, and 3. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Not call for a vote, all in favor of approval of this amendment 1, 2, 3, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I guess you better get to work then, right? Okay, item number 8, is amendment 8 for the fiscal year 2023 and 2026. Chris? Welcome.
Be a relatively short one. Did not make a presentation, but in the meeting packet, I have the amendment 8 schedule with the memo right on there. So amendment 8, the deadline for new and existing projects, most of y'all know, is December 6th. And they're sticking with that. The schedule, is planned, this amendment is planned to be a full amendment. And so we are planning for TDC approval request in February, and then we'll have to do our federal air quality review after that. The timeline was chosen to get the final updates into the current TIP, which is fiscal year 23 to 26. As a reminder, we're working on preparations for the next TIP, which would be fiscal year 25 to 28. We've had a lot of questions about how that transition is gonna go. I've tried to cover it in previous presentations a few times, but if anyone still has more questions, they can ask me about that now or at a later time. And I'm happy to explain our process. So all of our current TIP projects with funding phases between 25 and 28, they're automatically gonna carry over into the new TIP. And our thought process is that with amendment 8, we'll have those in the current TIP. And so everything that makes it to amendment 8 will automatically head on over to the next TIP. Any updates that we get that are on an amendment level after December 6th, they would likely need to be in the first amendment to the new TIP, and that will take quite a while to get there. So keep that in mind. And that's about it for amendment 8, unless I have any questions, I can.
Any questions? Let's move on. We're to number 9, the annual listing of the obligated projects. That's you again, Chris.
Yes, so our ALOP, we just recently completed the whole ALOP. We did the Indiana portion earlier, and I sent out the full packet to both committees just last week. And we also do have that posted online. It's on the TIP page. And in accordance with federal requirements, just to let you all know a little background, the MPOs must publish an annual listing of obligated projects or an ALOP after each fiscal year. The list is based on reports received from the state highway and transit agencies. As a bi-state MPO serving Indiana and Kentucky, we have 2 different fiscal years that we need to worry about for 2024. In Indiana, the time frame is between July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. Kentucky's was October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2024. So the ALOP reports are due 90 days after the fiscal year ends. Indiana's was due back in September, and we sent that portion at that time. The Kentucky report is not due until December 30th, but we did go ahead and send that to Thomas over at KYTC already. This report displays obligated projects by state and county, or there is a transit section. These are all projects with federally obligated funding for the fiscal year, not just the MPO dedicated projects. Obligated projects may not necessarily be initiated or completed during the ALOP year, and the cost of the federally obligated project phase is often different than the total project cost. So that's something to keep in mind. I have a few figures, and there is a summary in the actual ALOP packet in the beginning of it. So that its total fiscal year 24 funds obligated in the KIPTA region came out to 242 million and some change.
in Kentucky, I looked at last year's totals based on it compared with this year's totals. And so this year I got 95,623,323. Last year we had a little over 70 million. So we did have about $25 million of an increase of obligated projects in Kentucky. Indiana, we also had an increase of quite a big increase. Last year, we had a little over $25 million of projects obligated, project phases. This year, I got 108 million. So we had a $82 million increase of obligations in the Indiana counties. So that, I'm not sure why, but that took a big chunk of why our increase is so high. And then transit, last year we had $7 million and this year it was $38 million. So that's also an increase. Not sure why, but again, these are just what gets obligated and not necessarily what is when the projects are finishing and programmed. It's just the obligated phases, so it's gonna vary. That's all I've got on that, unless there's any questions.
President Chris. Okay, thank you so much. Item number 10 is the call for private break.
On the CULT projects. We'll process now. But you can see, CULT projects applications open August 1st, that period closed, on Halloween, October 31st. And so for the month of November, staff has been working to, compile all the applications, vet them, review them, to make sure all the information is what the sponsor needs. As well as scoring those projects, putting them through our MTP model or MTP scoring system. And getting some ranking information from the TTCC working group, among other activities in terms of mapping the projects and getting ready for a public comment period and other things. So we're still finalizing these activities in the month of November. There are 2 TTCC working group meetings scheduled for December, on December 9th and December 16th. Invitations for those have already been sent out several weeks ago. If you have questions about them, let me know. CULT projects funding awards is still, or the final award, the final decision of what projects will be funded is planned for the February TPC. So TTCC will put together, the working group, TTCC working group will put together a recommendation for the TTCC. TTCC will then recommend to the TPC in February. Okay, a little summary of the applications that we received. In Kentucky first, we received 12 applications for new projects requesting a total of $57 million. We received 30 applications for existing MPO dedicated projects that wanted some kind of funding increase or adjustment to their current funding. That number is slightly incorrect. It should be 105 million, not 115 million. And if you add those up, it adds up to about 162 million dollars. That is more than 3 times the amount that we have in Kentucky across all the fiscal years, across all the funding sources. So there will definitely be some hard decisions that will have to be made from the working group and beyond for Kentucky. As of note, around 96% of all the funding that was applied for came from either KYTC, Louisville Metro, or Turner. So that's kind of the summary of the applications we received for Kentucky. And for Indiana, we received 6 applications for new projects requesting a little bit over $20 million. 4 applications for existing MPO dedicated projects requesting some adjustments or increases in funding at that $2.6 million number you see there. And that totals a little over $23 million for all 10 applications for Indiana sponsors. And we are projecting to have almost $15.5 million potentially available for Indiana via this call for projects process across all the years, the fiscal 26 through fiscal 30 for Indiana. And there is some funding available in each of those years. It's kind of spread out in terms of how much funding is available, whereas in Kentucky, most of the funding is available currently on the back end in fiscal year 28 and 29. That may be adjusted as the working group meets and projects swap around, but that's kind of the starting point for this discussion for these states. Okay, and so next steps, as I mentioned before, each project sponsor that submitted more than one application was given an opportunity to rank in terms of their internal priority for projects. So that has been completed and returned to KIPTA from all the project sponsors with more than one submission. KIPTA has mapped these projects and gone through with project sponsors as necessary to vet their applications to make sure all the information lines up to prepare for the working group meetings. We have run through the projects that are new through our MTV scoring system to give them a score based on KIPTA's regional goals. And if you want more details on how those scores are breaking down, there is an appendix in our MTP that shows exactly what that scoring system is and how it's applied. But that was completed. And then we are currently have an ongoing public comment period on the project applications. Greg, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So this is something new we did this year. In previous times when we've done the development of the TIP, we send that out for that 30-day public notice. The projects have already been decided on at that point. So the public, any feedback we get from the public on that, they're basically useless at that point. So we decided, and let's give them a 2-week period to review all the projects that were submitted, give their feedback. We then take that and we're going to give that to the working group so that they can see the kind of feedback they're getting from the public. If there is any decisions that are kind of tight knit, maybe we can see some that have more public approval versus ones that don't. So that's just something new we've done. It seems to be doing really well. We have a comment map that we're running right now. I can say that on our one Twitter post that we did about it, it has over 2,400 views. So people are really involved in that. And I think the comments are really strong coming in so far. So like I said, we'll wrap that up on Monday. I'm going to send that out to the working group on Tuesday next week.
All right, and then also ongoing at this time, currently with public review process, is the TTCC working group is also ranking all the project applications in both states on a regional basis. Using a variety of different factors, we provided them with a packet of information of all the applications, as well as those internal project sponsor rankings and the mapping of where the projects are and a bunch of different factors that they are using to rank the projects in a region that we will then use that as another data point when the working group meets in December. I've received one of those rankings back from one of the TTCC working group members. Those are due back to me Monday, December 2nd. If anyone has any questions about that, that's a part of this working group, please let me know. Once we get that information back, once the public comment period is over, we're going to compile, kind of re-summarize all of these public comments, all of the rankings and the scoring and everything, that all the information we have regarding these projects, and resend out a packet to this working group prior to their first meeting December 9th, so that the members will have an opportunity to review it before the meeting as well. Now, once again, working group meetings December 9th, 10 a.m. and the 16th at 1 p.m. That will be in the KIPTA Burke room. And action on the 27th of February. And then project evaluation process. This is just straight out of KIPTA Project Manager Guidebook on what the TTCC working group members are doing as part of this process. One key thing is that they must reach a consensus on any recommendations. So there's 9 members. There will need to be 9 approvals for whatever is decided for this working group to move forward to the TTCC. And the members will have discretion to make these decisions to the best of their abilities. It is recommended that several of the things listed here at a minimum are considered as a part of this working group process, including the MTP scores that relate directly to KIP's long-range goals. All the information in the applications, whether things are in the environmental justice area, and a variety of things that you can read here, and they will also have other information, will be more context used as part of this process. And that's all that I have.
Questions? Thank Brady. Number 11, we get to see who the kite award winner will be. Rick?
Yes, I've got a short video here I will play. The 2024 Kite Award is special in its own right, but it also represents a decade's worth of projects that soared above the rest. So let's take a look at this year's nominations and award winner for the 2024 Kentucky Indiana Transportation Excellence Award. Our first stop is into the heart of J-Town for the Waterston Trail Streetscape Improvements Phase 1. This project is a transformational endeavor for the city of J-Town, stretching through the heart of the city's downtown. Phase 1 focused on improving the pedestrian experience, enhancing safety, and preserving the historic character of the corridor. Expanding the city's commercial corridor, the project introduced a thoughtfully designed combination of concrete walkways and brick paver amenity zones, upgraded street lighting, and a robust tree planting scheme that balanced aesthetics with function. Now on to Old Henry. Originally intended to begin at the Gene Snyder and end at the Crestwood bypass, this project decided to adapt in 2010 with the intent of delivering a better transportation solution for the area. A breakout project was formed that would end at Ash Avenue. This project boasts multi-use paths and center turn lanes to increase safety for all users. And finally, to this year's winner, the US 31 Bardstown Road reconfiguration with safety improvement projects. While a mouthful to say, this project delivers large in safety and functionality. This project is in the heart of the Highlands and redesigned the vehicle-centric road, which had been in place since the 50s, to be more conducive to pedestrians and local businesses, while enhancing the overall sense of place of the original Highlands neighborhood. Driving has been calmed thanks to bump outs, high visibility crosswalks, left turn bays, bus dedicated pull-offs, and pedestrian-led crosswalk signals. The changes have been embraced, increasing foot traffic and a calmer traffic environment. And we have trophy there, presentations for the winners.
So this time, I'd like to invite the folks from Louisville Metro and from KYTC up to accept your own awards.
The design.
Anybody say anything, you're welcome to say it.
We want to put the video together, is that you, Greg? or-
Yes, that is.
Very well done.
Oh, thank you.
Rick, I think you've got the next one, the annual outreach.
Yes, I sure do. Take a look at. Download on that, guess not. Yeah, exactly.
While Greg's doing that, I'll recognize some of the people that came, that showed up right after we started. Jim Silva, from Old County, thank you for joining us. Ida Kopik, she's online from Park. Kathy McAuliffe is online from NDOT. Thank you, Kathy, for being here. And Kevin Beatty from Clarksville. We have, great attendance, I think 15 out of 18, members. So thank you all for being here today.
All right. Okay, let's take a look at this past year's outreach. Social media yearly wrap up. Let's take a look at that first. On Facebook, we had 91,000 impressions and 11,572 engagements. Impressions were down a little bit compared to 2023, about a 9% drop, but there is good news out of this. Our engagements were up by over 1,100 from 2023. So while there's not as many eyeballs on our stuff, compared to 2023, more people clicking on links, pictures, going through our stuff. So that's good to see. Twitter also, 20,000 impressions, 971 engagements. I can't really compare engagements because, Twitter's got to stop letting us monitor that for free in June of 2024. But good news on that front is our impressions increased by 4,000 from 2023, which is really good. We had a really up and down year in 2023 with Twitter, so it's good to see our numbers trying to climb back a little bit. Other good news includes our Instagram, 6,335 impressions, 568 engagements. That, both of those increased 1,749 in 2023, and engagements slightly up as well from last year. This is something we weren't even using until probably about 3 years ago. So this is a good platform that we continue to build on. It's great that we continue to see these numbers kind of increase year to year. Website visits, main transportation page, over 3,400 visitors. Our tip page had 2,200 visitors, and our MTP saw just over 1,000 visitors. That was a decrease compared to 2023. So, one of my goals will be definitely looking to try to increase website traffic for the upcoming year. Events, we had a lot of good events we hit this year. There's the list. Something that I think is very important to note, half of these events were in environmental justice areas, and also half of these events are newly attended. So those were events we hadn't done in the past. We were able to get out there. Andy also spoke at U of L as a guest lecturer, so it was at a planning course. Public outreach, we did 3 different amendments in 2024, had a total of 105 comments. We also did our coordinated human services transportation plan outreach, unified planning working program, our Safe Streets for All, as well as our call for projects. Outreach strategies continue to be our email campaign. We have over 1,600 subscribers listed for that. We do our chambers of commerce. We have Bullitt County, Middletown, J-Town, the Puerto Rican Chamber as well. We do our MPO libraries. Metro Council members send out our stuff when we have public comments. We send them out to key stakeholders, and we also do paid social media campaigns. That does targeting in areas, so we're able to target zip codes, especially environmental justice zip codes, as well as if we have projects in certain areas, we can kind of target that to get more engagement. So goals for 2025, I already talked about this, increasing website traffic. That's going to be definitely one of them. We also want to grow our subscriber list. We at one point had about 1,800 prior to COVID. We kind of dropped off over the last couple of years. So that's definitely something I want to work on. Increase our public meeting attendance as well. We've been trying to do things a little different. We've tried hybrid, we've tried online. So we'll continue to work on trying to get more people involved and get people to care a little bit more about public transportation planning. And then continue to reach beyond Jefferson County. That was one thing that I was able to do in 2024 as well. We were able to hit out Bullitt County and Oldham County. Got some plans in work, hopefully for 2025 for outreach when we do our development of our TIP. Trying to do maybe some pop-up events in Indiana and some areas in West Louisville. Sorry about that. But also we did a lot of these little videos as well. I think that really helped big time when you saw social media really engaged in with that, with these short little video clips, those kind of things. So we'll be doing more of those as well. That's the goal there. I think that wraps it up. Yeah, have questions, feedback, anybody has anything, I'll take them at this time.
Everybody? Okay, Let's move on to number 13, administrative modifications, for fiscal year 23-26. Chris.
All right, folks. So I have been very busy. We've received a lot of applications. I'm gonna talk about administrative modification 18. As of this morning, the link in the packet and the QR code includes what I have so far for administrative modification 18. I haven't sent that out, but I will before the Thanksgiving holiday, so that'll be pretty soon. This one, it's, so what I want to say is that we have a lot of applications in a backlog right now. And due to the high volume, if you don't see something that you know you submitted, it's coming. Administrative modification 19 will be coming in December, and it's going to be very large. But this one has about 8 Louisville Metro government updates. Most of these are face shifts and some community project funding projects. What they were doing was they didn't initially add design, and so they're shifting the funds that exist with the projects and going ahead and adding that design. We've got about 11 NDOT updates. I might be able to add one more back in pending clarification today. And the beginning of a lot of KYTC updates will be in this admin mod. The next admin mod is gonna have all of the KYTC updates that are aligning the 6-year plan with the tip and STIP. So it's going to be very large. But we just got the beginning of that in this admin mod. Let's see, also in the next admin mod, we're going to probably have the 5310 TARC updates. And we will likely have some of those updates that Brady talked about earlier in his agenda item and other odds and ends. So don't worry if you don't see your updates in this one, it's coming within the next couple of weeks. As a reminder, administrative modifications don't require TPC approval as they are just minor updates for the projects. So this is for your information only. And it'll be posted online probably by the end of the day and sent out to the highway departments at that time. If anyone has any questions or if they need to get something in this one and can't wait a couple more weeks, get with me after this meeting and I'll get it in. But we're pretty much out of time for administrative modification 18.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Make sure, get your comments to Chris as soon as you need to, right?
Yes.
Okay, number 14 now, Andy's gonna tell us about AMPO membership. Tell us about it.
Yes, sir. So, AMPO is an organization that is quite a bit like, NATO, National Association of Development Organizations that KIPTA is a member of. The NATO organization, KIPTA is a longtime member. Jared's on, boards and committees with NATO, and this agency has been a strong supporter of them for a long time. There's another agency out there called AMPO. It's very similar, but it's highly focused, specialized on MPO activities. The KIPTA MPO has never been a part of AMPO. We've been exclusively an AMPO shop, if you will. At today's board meeting, I will be seeking their approval on us becoming a member of AMPO. Several of our neighboring agencies around Indiana and Kentucky have both started really engaging with AMPO. And for a myriad of reasons I'll get into in the board meeting, I think now's the right time for us to join. The ability just to train our new and incoming staff in the future, that's probably number one in my book. The knowledge exchange between MPOs that goes beyond our counterparts around Kentucky and Indiana, I think it's going to be a big deal for us. And so this is just an informational item, letting you all know that I will be seeking the board's approval for us to pay the dues and become an AMPO member. I'll be doing that here in the next hour.
And at that meeting, you'll get more details.
I sure will. And then the idea would be that we would likely join as soon as January 1st. So join for the half of fiscal year this year, and then bring more details to you guys and probably early in 2025 in terms of what we're looking at and all the benefits we see, and perhaps even get some of their folks online and maybe join us for a meeting. It'd be ideal.
Okay, director's report?
Yes, first I want to say happy holidays to everybody. Look forward to a big 2025. As you can see from just the TIP administration alone, we've got a busy couple of months till we meet again. So those deadlines that Chris or Brady has mentioned in terms of if you or your staff are on a working group, please get those projects rankings into us on Monday. The projects for the amendment by Friday, next Friday. So we got a busy couple of months ahead as KIP the staff, for sure. Reminder, no meetings in December, right? The working group will meet on December 9th, December 16th, December 9th at 10, December 16th at 1. And then I guess I want to leave with some good news here. A couple of months ago, I guess it was, before the TPC, we sought the TPC's approval to seek out through the State Economic Development Cabinet for the grant program of 2024. That's the state funds that are out there in Kentucky to help ensure that no federal discretionary grants escape our grasp, right? They're gonna help with the local match, okay? KYTC and KIPTA's name is on the application, recently applied for the Reconnecting Communities Pilot Grant Program for a project that would, it's called Reconnecting Central Portland to the Riverfront, near the 22nd Street interchange in the west end of Louisville, making some improvements down on that area of 64. Last week, we were notified that the state office has indeed awarded that match money to us. So that's $13.4 million. $13.4 million of non-federal match that we have waiting in the wings. If not when, but if the federal grant comes through. Those announcements have not been made yet, to be clear. But if we are awarded the federal money to do that project, $30 million project, as I recall. So it's a 50-50. So we're getting the request, I believe, was for around 14 million from federal grant. This would be about 13 million on top of that. So that's real good things, real good news. It also could make some of those call for projects decisions a little bit easier, right? Because that would cover that was one of the projects, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And so that would cover a little bit should it come through. So the timing of that, we'll find out. We don't know when we'll find out if we get the federal grant, but really great news, $13.4 million of state money to go toward that project. So it's fantastic news.
And you don't know when you get the final word.
No, we do not know when we'll get the final grant award. I don't know if anybody in the room knows, but I guess I was thinking it'd be probably early in the year. I would guess it's before January 20th is what I guess. I don't know that. So we'll see.
All right, good deal. Any other business come forward the board? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, aye? Aye. Adjourned. Thank you. Good picture.
She got one. Oh, she got one.
Yeah. Thanks.
Man.
You're doing good on that.